Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kim Cole. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in to another installment of The Cold Truth. I am Kim Cole, and it's lovely to be with you all this Thursday evening in Trinidad and Tobago. So a bit of positive news. The presidential inauguration takes place next Monday. Yes, in this country, we are going to see our very first woman prime minister. I mean, you know, last week we celebrated International Women's Day. So I think that this is definitely, you know, an achievement for women, again, in Trinidad and Tobago. This evening, I want to touch on the anti-gang bill. I want to touch on crime. So I'm going to give you a bit of background. I am fed up. I'm fed up of crime. I'm fed up as a citizen watching successive governments fail to manage the surge of crime in our country. We are too small a nation, too small in this 2x4 nation to be fighting with such a high murder rate. Guns, drugs, and gangs. Now, when the riots took place in East Port of Spain last month, when Christmas was murdered, the Attorney General, Faris Al-Rawi, was quoted as saying he wanted to be, and I quote, very certain to remind the population, unquote, that law enforcement must be given the space to operate, as well as be held accountable for their actions where necessary. As a result, the government and the opposition met to discuss the anti-gang legislation. So, some background for you, the viewers at home. Now, the anti-gang bill, and follow me really carefully, the anti-gang bill seeks to maintain public safety and order by discouraging membership in criminal gangs, by suppressing criminal gang activity and other related matters. It makes it an offense to be a member of a gang. It is an offense to be in possession of a bulletproof vest, to participate in or contribute to gang activities, to support or invite support for a gang, or to harbor or conceal gang members, or to recruit persons to a gang. Now, the bill had first been presented by then People's Partnership government in 2011 and was up for renewal in December last year. Now, it failed to go forward in December when the entire opposition bench voted against it because they did not agree with the government's inability to compromise on a sunset clause. Now, I'm going to open my telephone lines to the viewers very early this afternoon because I would like to get some public feedback on your thoughts as it relates to the anti-gang bill before I explain the intricacies of this piece of legislation. I want to find out if you understand what the anti-gang bill entails. Do you understand what a gang is, the description of a gang, you know, under the anti-gang bill? I want to find out what the public's perception and the public's view of the anti-gang bill is this evening. Our telephone lines are open, 622-9785 or 628-6093, 235-3673 and 235-3676. And for those of you who are viewing us live on Facebook, we welcome you to, you know, leave us a comment to participate in this very important topic this afternoon. Now, as I continue, a bill can only be reintroduced to Parliament after 6 months unless it gets a special waiver. Noting the urgency of addressing the crime situation, the opposition agreed to support waiving parliamentary regulations to revisit the bill. Now, from the police's side, the Police Service Social and Welfare Association President, Inspector Michael Seals, believes that the legislation will help the TTPS to carry out their duties with more ease. However, there has been concern that the legislation could be open to abuse and manipulation by corrupt officers of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The public view seems to support a zero-tolerance approach to crime and gangs, but while we recognize that to win this war, the government needs new tactics and legal tools, we must also be cautious of what this bill might mean in terms of our constitutional rights. And I'm going to stop for this call. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You are live. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, my love.
Yes. Good evening, Miss Cole.
Good evening, my dear.
Spanish Rose. This is Tanch. You know what? I support the anti-gang legislation bill. But you know what? I would like it to be on a trial basis. I'm too old to agree to a wedding and know that it wouldn't work out and be stuck in it. So I am one for a trial basis, and if it works, prolong it a little longer, and then if it really works, then we are going to be crime-free from this anti-gang legislation bill. Go ahead, enforce it, no problem. But I don't want to be married just like that, and I can't get out of it. This is Tance. Oh.
But Tance, before you go, you there or you gone already? I wanted to find out if you knew exactly what the sunset clause is, or what is your interpretation of the sunset clause. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You are live. Hello? Hello? Yes, good afternoon, caller. You are live. Hello? I can hear you. Could you please speak up? I do apologize, caller. We dropped the call, or the call was dropped. You're welcome to call back at the numbers that are flashing in front of your screen. Now, Dr. Rowley was very vocal in his disappointment in the bill not being passed in December because he felt that they had thoroughly discussed the sunset clause at that time with the opposition. Hi, good afternoon, caller. Are you there? Hello? Caller, could you please make your contribution? I can hear you. So, the calls, it appears as though the calls have dropped. But I do expect a senior attorney this afternoon who is going to come and, elucidate, to clarify a lot of the, the blurs. It seems to me as though, as much as we, the public, we are very concerned with crime, I don't think that we fully understand the implications of the anti-gang bill. Hi, good afternoon, caller. Are you there? So I'm going to take a very short break, but when we return, we will continue with this afternoon's discussion. You're watching The Cold Truth. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kim Cole. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Hi, welcome to Tanti's Creole Food Delight. We are located at Orsa Espana and Duke Street, Port of Spain. Graduated from THCI, which is they call hotel school at Shagaramas, and I am the owner of this business. And we have daily lunches, which is from Tuesdays to Saturdays. On a Saturday, we do breads, sweet bread. We also have soups, oxtail soup and cowbell soups to your delight. We also have different menus daily from 11 to 3. We also cater for different occasions like weddings and birthday parties. We always want to ensure that the customer is satisfied with the end product here at Tanti's Kitchen.
The Red Edge Mall at the corner Mooneyram Street and Western Main Road, St. James, where parking is available for our valued customers on both sides of the street. Red Edge Mall caters for the health conscious, the tastiest soups you'll ever find, the freshest produce, trendy clothing for the fashion dons and divas. Experience the most exotic African male and female outfits, costume jewelry of all descriptions. If you're one who pays special attention to your hair, welcome to the home of hair. Get the latest and widest variety of phones of all descriptions and repairs on the spot at the Red Edge Mall. Closing time 9 p.m. The Red Edge Mall, making shopping affordable. Powered by the Black Caucus Movement.
The Black Caucus Movement, we're making a statement. The Black Caucus Movement, making a statement. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kim Cole. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Welcome back to our program. You are watching The Cold Truth. I am Kim Cole, and joining me in studio, I do have criminal attorney, Mr. Mario Merritt. Good afternoon, Mr. Merritt, and thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you in studio this afternoon as we deal with this rather tough topic, the anti-gang bill.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, Mr. Merritt, plain talk, bad manners. Do you think the Anti-Gang Act legislation will really help save this country from what feels like an unmanageable crime wave?
In a nutshell, no. It's a plaster on something that is much wider, and it has very little. It will have very little effect. Reason I say this is simple. We have enormous. What we don't lack are laws. There are laws for every aspect of human life, and there are laws to deal with every aspect of criminality as it exists now. Those laws are not being enforced. And not only are they not being enforced, is that the detection rate on those that we already have is abysmal. So to add more laws on that you can't even deal with the ones you already have, to have more laws, how does that assist us? And especially this type of law. The anti-gang laws deal with nebulous things. If you have a crime of gang, you're saying the gang is doing something.
Right.
Something is what has to be the crime, not the fact of a gang, but what are they doing? And there are laws to deal with just conspiring to do something. There are laws for that, conspiracy. There are laws if you find you with a firearm, there is a law for that. So there are actual laws on the books to deal with the actual things that these gangs are supposed to be doing.
Right.
But what's happening with that?
So what is the definition of a gang under the
You see,
Anti-Gang Act?
that has always been the issue. It's been so nebulous that anything and anyone can fit in that amorphous being. So that everyone needs to be worried. Am I part of a gang? Because I assemble with people and we have similar ideas. And what is a gang? Is it like in America where you have the Bloods and the Crips where you can identify Bloods wear particular color, particular markings, particular tattoos. So you know that you're not wearing that unless you're one of them. Otherwise, you know it can cause problems for your very life.
Right.
What are the symbols and signs of gangs in Trinidad? We don't have those kinds of identifiable markers to say, I am in a gang. You may hear that there's a gang from this street and there's a gang from that street, but how do you tell them apart? They may know themselves apart, but the rest of the society won't know them.
Now, under the Act, what does the Act define a gang to be?
Well, it goes back to what I just said. It's not a clear definition.
It's not clear.
It's always telling you a group of people doing a particular nefarious act. Any
Right.
nefarious act that it finds ought not to be done.
Right.
But that in itself is subject to interpretation. And even right now, just in the normal legislation that we do have, we have police officers locking people up and then trying to see how it fits with what exists. I'm saying that the anti-gang legislation is a piece of legislation that we do not need. And it doesn't assist. The police love it. Of course they would. Who wouldn't love having more power? More power to lock up? Nobody would say no to power.
Right.
But the question is, how are we going to use that power to benefit society? It's easy when you can say, just lock up the people, let it place cool down.
Right.
But you're locking up people when you really have no reason to lock them up other than you say, you know what, let's just call them a gang for now. We will work it out later. We'll work it out later what the gang is and what they did this time. As opposed to specific crimes, you find me with a firearm, lock me up for that.
Right.
You find me shooting somebody, lock me up for that. You find me marijuana, lock me up for that. Because those are specific things where you can say, oh, I am guilty of that. But when you have somebody saying, he's a member of a gang.
It's just too vague.
Yeah, it's vague.
I see.
It's always, and that has been the problem when in the first dispensation with under the UNC, it was vague then. It hasn't become any clearer now. And I'm a bit surprised and bothered by the fact that the UNC said it failed. These things failed. And yet they're supporting it again in more or less the same fashion. First, they allowed the politics to push them into agreeing to something that they said failed. Why would you agree to something that you said under your own dispensation it failed? Why would you agree to it now?
I don't know. Now, there was a lot of fuss over this particular area called the Sunset Clause. What exactly is this Sunset Clause?
A Sunset Clause is simply this. You have a period of time under which legislation is valid and legal, and after that period of time, that it comes to an end at that point. So if we don't go to Parliament and say, continue this law, the law dies. Normally laws just stay on the books forever. But a Sunset Clause allows a particular piece of legislation to die after a period of time has passed. So in this particular situation, I think it's 2 years or 2.5 years, whichever one they've agreed on. Initially, the government wanted 4 years. And I know the opposition said, let's try for 2.5, something to that effect. And it settled somewhere there. So that after 4 years, under the government's plan, it may have come back up for review and then may have died at that point. Under the UNC's version of it, the opposition, after 2 years, 2.5 years, I can't recall which one they settled on, it would die of a natural death, the law, unless Parliament says, keep this law. So they wanted an opportunity to review it, to see whether it was effective or ineffective.
Right. Now, I understand, and I am hoping that the viewing audience does understand. You will get the opportunity to call in a few. But before we do, now coming out of the state of emergency under the People's Partnership government, do you feel like a bill of this nature can in fact encroach on the rights of a citizen, particularly those in the more vulnerable communities?
Well, to me, that's not a difficult question, but it's a complex one. In the sense that, yes, anything that takes away your right to do anything encroaches on a right. But the question is, in some circumstances, it is necessary for these rights to be encroached on for the wider public to have a good life.
Right.
The question is whether there is a need in this particular case for this particular legislation. Is there a need in our society for this particular legislation? And my feeling is that is no. There's no need. We have to be always careful when our rights are being infringed, when they're being taken, because sometimes when they're being taken away, you never get them back. They're gone. And the question is, am I willing to give up my rights for what? What am I getting up for it? And if you can show me statistically that this piece of legislation or any piece of legislation that is taking away my rights will bring a greater benefit than a burden, then okay, I may be willing. But the universe and the planet is ripe with examples where rights are taken away and you get no benefit for it. And people do this usually when they're scared. Our situation as the country is with enormous crime. And they look for anything that's thrown at them and say, this is a solution. And you just say, yes, it must be a solution. But it may not be the solution. It may be creating more problems later on. But we're too panicked and too worried to actually sit and analyze. The government said it, so it must be good. The opposition and supporters say so it must be bad. It's that kind of dynamic that we live in that does not allow us to analyze things properly. And in this particular piece of legislation, when you're looking to do anti-gang or state of emergency, you have to ask yourself, are the benefits going to outweigh the burdens? And taking away people's rights, it must be a serious thing, and people must always guard against that being taken away, unless you're getting enough for it. For me to give up my rights, you must show me the benefit I'm getting must be real. You can't tell me about something that I might get, because I'm losing something for real, as opposed to something I might get. The problem with our society right now, this is my opinion, and it's an opinion I hold, we have problems in other aspects. We have problems with the judiciary, we have problems with the police, the detection rate is abysmal, and you have a situation where, let me give you an example. Once upon a time, not too long ago, every conviction the police would get, not every, but almost every, would be based on somebody's confession. You would hear, he confessed, almost all of them. So your conviction was based on some confession that nobody else was there to see, but you got a statement, person signed it, man comes, I never signed it, I was beaten. But that was where most of the convictions would come from. The law has changed now that most of the interviews are videotaped. Right. And now, where have all these confessions gone? What was once so many confessions, now that it's being videotaped. Why are the confessions it's rare now to hear that somebody confessed on tape. Right. Yeah? So you ask yourself, what was happening before? Now that it's there, that we are seeing, everything is open, the number of confessions, it doesn't marry with what you were getting before. And those are things you have to wonder, okay, are we in a state where we can trust our police to come forth and give credible evidence, real evidence? There's a lot of mistrust in our police, and that is not the citizens' fault. The police have created a situation where people do not trust you. And defense attorneys have this position, it's a position we hold, that if you have a case where the majority of witnesses are police officers, you have a way better chance of getting a not guilty than a case where the citizens come and speak. Because citizens trust citizens, but they don't trust the police. Because every one of us, well, most of us, have had a bad police experience. Right. So that we know when you come into the court and you tell us how great you did your job, we know, gosh, you're lying to us. We don't believe you. Right. And that is why there's a lot of acquittals in our system as opposed to much more convictions. Why in England, where you would expect the police operate totally differently, and therefore you would expect that there's a greater degree of trust in the police service in other countries, especially like England. They have bad police officers too, but the way and the manner in which it is done, the way in which police officers operate among the citizenry is different from here. And therefore there's a greater degree of trust. So when you come and give evidence, they're more likely to believe you than our police. So we have that problem. We have a situation where if you were charged now, you have to wait 10 years for your case. What is that? How is justice ever going to be achieved in a situation like that? Right. So we're looking at the wrong things, putting more legislation, rather than dealing with the actual problems that need to be fixed. And the problems are low-hanging. They can be dealt with quickly.
Well, which brings me to my next question. What are your views on the legalization or the decriminalization of marijuana and the implications?
You see, these questions are funny questions for attorneys, because my personal view is I see no difficulty with decriminalizing it. For people come into court for the smallest of things, you ask yourself, you waste court time, you take up time when the court could be dealing with serious matters for something that you could barely see. That seems pointless. If you're asking, but how do attorneys make their living when you arrest people?
Right.
So for an attorney, the attorney answer is, I am against
the decriminalization of marijuana.
I'm against it.
Right.
Keep it that way. But the practical thing about it is that what's the point of what? It makes our system, clogs our system, wastes time in our system to have things that, if you want, give it a ticket, decriminalize it, make it something that is not so negative in the society, that it wastes a lot of time, a lot of resources that could have been put to better things, better use.
Now, you are a defense attorney, and I can imagine that you would have represented citizens who would have been arrested for marijuana possession. What is the longest time that someone was actually remanded into custody? If memories, if you can.
I am sure in my 19 years that people have been, excuse me, I have had cases where people have sat in jail awaiting just a preliminary inquiry, yeah, years, and then come before the court, get their day in court, and there is no evidence against them. So they walk free right there and then. So I've had clients who sit in a jail cell for 3, 4, 5 years. They come to the day in court, and the evidence falls apart. You lost 4 or 5 years of your life in a cell, and the evidence wasn't even enough for you to have to answer the charge.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that we have, and it's easy to just sweep it under the carpet and say how great our judicial system is and all these different things. But we need to be honest. We need to be critical of our system to fix it.
Right.
And the thing about it is easier for people to not be critical. You know what? There's a saying. Yes, there are only a few bad police officers, but the majority of them are good. How do you know that? How do you know that there's not? It's just a nice saying, and people say it, and it makes them feel good, and they move on. But you have any actual data to tell me that the officers in our country, the majority of them are good? No. It's probably true that they are, but it's just a saying.
Now, how effective, given that you mentioned policemen and alleged corruption in the police service, how effective is the PCA in treating with these issues?
I can't speak on things that I have limited knowledge about.
Right.
And what I'm think that it's an essential element of the change. It's an essential element that the Police Complaints Authority be equipped and armed to deal with actual complaints, to be able to have the teeth to be able to effect change, to make a real dent in saying, if you've got police officers, they must know that they will be found out if they are corrupt, and they will be dealt with. Within the police service itself, there is the Police Professional Standards Bureau, which they police themselves also. So I know they operate sting operations against police officers, those kinds of things. We need more of that. Let me give you, I'm digressing, but let me give you an example. One of the things that we have here is a lack of information. The police don't have enough information. So what they often do, sometimes do, is use undercover officers.
Right.
I remember doing a case where a police officer was undercover, and he came out of undercover to do a case, to come and give evidence. They cleared the court, cleared everything. And he came and gave evidence. In other words, blew his undercover status because my clients and other people were able to see him for a joint. For a joint. So you spend all that time undercover to come out and blow your undercover status for a joint. And other undercover officers tell me, Mr. Merritt, you know what? You know where I have to go to collect my money? I'm an undercover officer. You know where I have to collect my money? At the bank. You know what I used to have to do that? My same ID. So
it defeats the purpose.
It defeats the purpose. So that you ask yourself, what is the thinking that goes into this? So you understand why our system isn't working. Because the things aren't rocket science. Nothing I've said to you are things that others don't know. We all know them.
Right, but why is it not being implemented or changed?
There's this saying in this Chinese saying, in chaos there's profit. So that when chaos exists, somebody's profiting.
Right.
So to me, in my mind, the reason why we are where we are and how we are is because somebody's profiting from our status.
And as it relates to crime?
As it relates to crime.
And we're going to stick a pin. Our telephone lines are open 622-9785, 628-6093. I'd like to have the numbers flashing across the screen. Thank you so much. Do we have a caller already? Hi, good afternoon, caller. Hello. Right. Whilst we get the line sorted out, could I ask, in your opinion, who do you think would benefit from crime?
The people who see a profit in it, and it depends on everybody who works in the criminal justice system profits from crime, but that means they may not be criminals.
Right.
Yes. You think about the people who convey the criminals to court every single day. I was told it's almost like $80 million or something that you pay in transportation.
Right.
So somebody's profiting from there being high that. We all who work in the judges, we all get paid from it, but we're not, I wouldn't consider us profiting from it. It's
right.
our, but there are other entities who see the opportunity to make money from the chaos.
Let's stop to take this call. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You live?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear. Yes, sir. Could you please speak up?
To your guest, what's his name?
Mario
Mr.
Merritt.
Mario Merritt.
Mario Merritt, right. You know, you shocked me when you said we have undercover officers. I thought we didn't. Because when I see certain things going down, my husband likes to tell me, oh, you like to watch so much Law and Order and Chicago PD. But these are the things I see them do. You will hear some, I never forget, there used to be a robbery. They were robbing people in the ATM in Sawa. 3 women get robbed, and I'm saying, but why didn't they put down like an undercover female to do a sting operation, catch this perpetrator? So I am shocked to hear Mr. Merritt saying we have undercover officers, because sometimes I am amazed. And Mr. Merritt, you are so right. They always say crime is a business. And I always wonder, how, you know, as you are there, could you tell the public and tell me the law, what are the functions of the law? What are the functions of the law association? What do they do? Because I am seeing cases dragging on for years, and I'm asking, because I think I heard the CJ said he doesn't deal with how long when a case must come to trial and whatever. So could you explain that? What are the functions of the law association? Because I'm puzzled. What are their functions? Because we have the case with the what's the girl named Shannon Banfield. Up to now, that case, every time it goes, it can't even reach the magistrate. It's always a put off. What is causing our case? You see that guy who shot the people in Florida, the 17 people? I feel his trial will finish before other cases, before his own come to trial. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
The law association's function is really, it's a governing body for lawyers. So they manage the legal fraternity. They make recommendations to the government for what laws ought to be passed. They also review laws that are to be passed, so that they don't have teeth to say that they can control the judiciary or control how things take place, but they can make recommendations. Now, you ask, why do cases take long in this country? Cases take long. The fact is, we have an overburdened judicial system, and it's easy to fix, but no one seems to want to fix it. One of the things, there's simple recommendations. We have something like 6 high courts in Port of Spain. We have about 4 in San Fernando and 1 in Tobago. That cannot, if it's run every day, one cannot, if it's just run from the 8 to 4, service the needs of the Trinidad and Tobago. So what you need to do is, as was done in the past, after 4, the building is still there. Make use of the building, make use of the courts, because as the judge said, if crime was to stop tomorrow, we would still have backups for years in our courts. Because of the amount, the burden, the system just cannot take what's there. We need more judges, we need more magistrates, we need to make use of the system from not just from 9 to 2, but the building is there 24/7. Right. Night court, it works in America We started it, and for some reason we stopped it. I don't know why, but we have to make use of what we do have. You can't put new buildings. You have buildings that are already there. No need to build new ones. Make sure you make maximum use of the facilities you do possess.
Thank you so much for very informative response. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You live? Hello. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You are live. We invite you to call.
Hello.
Wow. Yes, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, my dear.
Yes, good afternoon. Good evening again, Miss Cole. Miss Cole, this is Tan. Mr. Merrick, a special good evening to you.
Thank you.
Sir, I grew up in the days in England of the skinhead, and we had complete faith in the bobbies, we call them, our English police. Complete faith. Did you know the skinheads would attack you, but you could go to the police station and get justice? But you know, things happen, and when you go to the police here in Trinidad, you don't get justice. Because, I mean, I'm looking at a case that I've been following, Beepot, young Beepot. Allegedly, 3 young men are there walking around eating ice cream and fish and chips and having a good time in Trinidad. My God. The father is crying out in agony and pain. Nothing is done. I remember Rachel Ramkey soon. Nothing is being done. No update, nothing like you would get in Florida and where have you. I myself, elderly, living in prison, I have to be home before 4 o'clock. I have to know which street I'm walking on the main road and what have you. What is being done for me? And this was why I said that anti-gang bill should be given a try. I didn't say for a year. I said a small amount of time, perhaps 3 months, perhaps 6 months. Let us see. Let us see. And if it works, fine. Then, then I could go out and walk my dog and, what have you. I am too old, 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot out, to be in prison. And look at all the murders taking place and nothing being solved. It is a problem. We talk about all the laws in place, but then they're not being used. They're not being carried out. And to be honest, I don't trust the police. I'm sorry to say it. I am from the English. I grew up in England, right? I trust my bobbies. I don't trust the police. And I want to know, how come my little children, my little black-haired children, getting all the guns? They don't even have money to get a proper apartment and proper clothes, yet they get high-powered guns. I ask the question every day, who are giving my children these guns? Who are bringing in the guns? How they're coming in? It's not little black children coming in with containers alleged. It's not little black children that have thousands and millions of dollars. Who is it? Where is the root cause? And we have to get to the root cause, Mr. Merrick, before. And I see all these little black children being blamed, being a whole generation going out, and one particular race saying nothing but continue to prosper and prosper. And I see slavery all over again. I'm sorry, Mr. Merrick, to be so passionate. So I think I'm going to listen to what you have to say. Thank you. Time's out.
Want to think that we ought to be, because you speak about one particular race of people being put in jail, but you can't run from the fact that the parents are involved in the upbringing of their children. And if I remember the good old days with there is no way that my father would let me come home with somebody else's anything. Right. Their ruler, they're this, marching me back to where I get that, and they want to know where I get that from. Right. I can't say that the person gave it to me. If the person might have given it to me, no. But that's not yours. I didn't give you that.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah. We have to take responsibility for the upbringing of our children. And there are a lot of people whose kids are not on the right path. But they're saying, my good boy. They're accepting the bad things and just putting their mind aside because the boy giving them good things. So I would agree with you that it shouldn't be one race of people, because being targeted in any aspect of it, any aspect, whether it be the Syrian, the Indian, the Negro. No, it's at the end of the day, this is our country. So if it affects one, it will eventually affect all. So that to say that one race, no, at the end of the day, even if you want to put it in as you said, the black people's hands, they have the guns, they will come around and eventually do it to the other races. So somebody's going to get harmed. So the thing to do is to find a solution. And the solution is, yes, to find out one, parents must bring the children up better. Two, the police must take responsibility for themselves, police themselves properly, so that we can have more faith in the people who are out there looking after when we're sleeping at night, looking after us. And there are a lot of low-hanging fruit, lots of low-hanging fruit that the politicians are not speaking with the people who in the know. They're speaking with their friends who giving them advice, who again profiting from the relationship they have, but they're not addressing the actual problems in the society. The people who are in the trenches every day, you need to speak to them. You need to deal with them. Find out how they see the process going forward.
Hi, good afternoon. Caller, you are live. Hello. Hi, good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon. Caller, you are live. Now you can call back. It appears to me that so the call has dropped. Now, Mr. Marad, I'm interested to know your views. How did we reach here? Is it that gangs are to be blamed for high crime, or are there other factors we should be looking at that may be behind the surge?
I don't know. You see, to speak intelligently on something, you need to have statistics to be able to back up what you're saying. All I can tell you is based on what my experience and my feel is. And I would not think the problems we have stem from gangs. I think that the gang is a nice thing to throw everything on, and yeah, but we have enormous problems that we are avoiding and not dealing with because we can throw it on something.
Okay, so what would be an example of that?
Example of
the problems.
You think about it. We have a situation where we break laws. The good people break laws every single day. We break the littering law. Every single day you find people throwing things out their car. Right. Every single day, whether it be a chicken bone, whether it be any, you find them throwing it out their car. And nobody does anything about it. Right. Nobody says anything. And you're afraid to say something because you tell somebody, hey, what are you doing in this our country? You're getting your mother, your father, everything coming back at you. Right. So people start to withdraw from their own civic responsibility in order to safeguard themselves from either embarrassment and I'm not a Bajan, so he's a Bajan, let me sit back. Those little things eventually add up. A child sees that and says, well, obviously, if my father just cussed that man out and that man run back, why? I know what I need to do to and that's what happens. We have this spiral of the small things that eventually get into these big things. And so my solution is, I shouldn't give my solution, but there are things that one of the things that I saw in other places, other countries, and I realize we are afraid to discuss it, national service. I see that as a super way of changing the whole psyche of the country. Right. People must recognize that this is their country. They must have love for their country. And how do you do that? By inculcating it in them, by saying, you know what, for a year or two, community service. For a year or two of your life, you have it's done in Austria, I have friends who've done that, who whether they go to university or otherwise, that is part of their knowledge, so that they have a love for people because they served, and they have a love for their country because, again, they serve their country. And until we start doing that, until we realize, you know what, generations are being lost, but people with selfish, I see him have, I know how we get it, but I want it. Right. Let me go take it. We have that mentality without understanding, you know what, we are here to serve each other, and by so doing, we will all improve. But I've heard the politicians run from that national service. I don't know why. 2 years of your life dedicated to serving others must be a good thing.
Now, are gangs only operational in areas like Port of Spain, East Port of Spain, Mova, Laventille or Beetham, or is it a nationwide situation?
You see, because of the nature of this, the gang definition, its amorphous nature, it's hard to say where a gang exists only. So that if you are a big businessman planning on how to fraudulently acquire things with a set of other businessmen.
There should be a gang, right?
I don't see why not.
But then that is not incorporated under the anti-gang
It's not.
bill, which
It's not.
brings me to why was there specific need to form an anti-gang bill and not an anti-crime bill that would incorporate white-collar crime?
Well, two things. I think one, you deal with what you can see. And people look at the crime in the country and they see bloodshed, they see things like that. So what you do is you focus people's minds on, let us deal with this. You're not really dealing with it, but you're focusing in their mind that we are supposedly dealing with this.
Right.
So it's easier to say that than to say, oh, let's deal with some crime that impacts very little on us and physically and just maybe part of a business process. So it's easier to focus on things that is in your face than things that they're there, but they're not in your face. And so therefore the anti-gang and those kinds of things seem to be addressing things that are in your face.
In your face.
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. Caller, you are live. Yes, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
You're live.
I'm not sure, I'm not really hearing you, But my question is for the attorney. Good afternoon. Could he elaborate on the matter with the person who was charged with marijuana for 5 years or something like that, and they got off?
Thank you.
It's not a person. This is not an unusual situation. As I said, in our particular country, people are charged and spend 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and more awaiting trial. So that and they will tell you that the system is just so clogged that that's how it is. So when you eventually get your day in court, some people don't either can't access bail or are denied bail. So in other words, you're spending those years in a cell. So I ask myself this all the time. Mario, how many days in a jail could you do? And I tell myself I can't do one. I could see myself climbing the walls, going, crying all over every single day. And these people do it for years. They do it for years. Birthdays come, birthdays go. Christmas come, Christmas go. And they are there not knowing when they will get, not even outside, a day in court.
A day in court.
And when eventually they do get the day in court, the evidence, on many occasions, falls apart. Whatever was the thought they had, and I'm talking about sometimes a day in court isn't even their trial, it's the preliminary inquiry or maybe even to find out that, sorry, what I thought, I had a case up recently where the person was charged, they didn't spend forever in jail, they spent a good while, to find out that the thing that they said was cocaine wasn't cocaine.
Wow.
Yeah, Martin San Fernando, well, where they said it's cocaine, so they arrested, charged for cocaine. And when it came back from the test, it wasn't cocaine.
Let's stop for this call. Hi, good afternoon. Caller, you are live. Hello. Hi, good afternoon. I guess the call dropped. You're welcome to call back. Now, there are claims that Trinidad and Tobago is a connection point between Latin America and the rest of the world for the shipment of drugs and guns and even human trafficking. Can this anti-gang bill have an impact on gang activity that's fueled by our neighboring countries?
As I said earlier on, I think because when there is profit, the question is whether people operate on that. The fact that you may have a penalty if I'm caught is different from whether I'm going to do the thing because it is profitable. Right. So yes, you may have a penalty, but I am seeing that the profit
is more than
yes, not more than the penalty. I have a greater chance of profiting than being caught.
I understand.
So that if there's a greater chance of the detection is low, then there's a chance that, if they're only going to have about 3% chance of catching me, and I have a chance of making 500% of the money I start off with, 3% versus 500%. I think I'll take the 500% chance. And that is what's happening. So it's not a matter of there being laws or laws to try and stop. The question is whether or not the thing is profitable enough. So that's why when you ask earlier about the marijuana, If you take away marijuana's profit,
Right.
and make it government selling it too, everybody's selling it because it's legal. There's no reason, there's no profit in it.
There's no profit.
There's no profit. There's no reason for me to bring in guns with marijuana because what's the point? I have a problem with you and you steal my marijuana. I don't worry about doing it privately and beat you up. I can go to a court because it becomes something that I can actually deal with in open. And therefore, the violence associated with some types of drugs would disappear.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. You're live.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the attorney a question. What about those guys in Raymond, and because it might have many innocent people, right? What about them in Raymond there, what might be, if they catch them, they might be out long time, and you have them there for 15 years and all them kind of things. What do you feel should happen to them guys inside here? With all them, it might happen innocent. What do you think should happen? I mean, the Chief Justice and all of them, who's supposed to think about that? Like they're not thinking about it.
You see, what?
Thank you so much for your contribution.
One of the things people don't recognize, and one of the scary things is that people believe that when you lock up people, they just disappear.
Right.
And then they're not coming back out. That's what they feel. The people have this mentality. When you lock up, you do your jail. But what we don't recognize is that people eventually come back out. And if you keep people in a cell, a small cell with 12 and 10 people in it, and they haven't used a pail, they get angry. There's an experiment. There are experiments done with mice. And if you keep mice in a cage, a few of them in a cage, you can put your hand in that cage and play with them and everything. But as they start to multiply, the stresses of being in that cage, they become aggressive. Right. They become, you can't put your hand back inside of that cage. Similarly with people, if you have one person in a cell, that's okay. But if you put 10 of them in the same cell and they have to use the same pail, the same everything, they become aggressive. When they come back out, where they come back out? They come back out in somebody else's country. They come back right here in our society. So you see the escalation in the violence in crime because of how we deal with our own people in jail. I have had the opportunity to visit other penal situations, and I see the difference. And I see that they recognize that at the end of the day, these are still human beings. And if you treat people like human beings, when they come out, they will still be human beings. They won't be monsters. But we have a situation where I will lock them up, put them in this dungeon, and expect them to be nice guys, rehabilitated when they come out. How does that happen? They come out angry, feeling that the society has done them wrong, and they will make the society pay. That's just it.
I understand. Now, in communities, poorer communities where crime and criminal activity might seem an attractive option to young people, what do you think can be done to shift the perspective of young people away from crime?
You see, I started by saying one of the things I saw as a solution to this is indicating that, you know what, 2 years national service. And in the process of the national service, you learn skills. It's not just have you there. You learn skills that at some point in time, discipline and other things, with the skill, that when you come out of that program, you would have a different perspective of how to live a life, how to be a mature citizen in society. And it will teach you that in itself, that you see that you're looking at the gangs and it'll just be dissipating because you no longer see that as your future. You no longer see that as your ambition. You see other things and other places to go. The world becomes a different place. But if that is where you live and that is all you see, and you're in the gangs all the time, then what I can't blame you for running to a gang because those are the ones who give you a food every so often. The Minister of National Security giving you the food. The gang leader giving you. So that you go in there. So if we take them out of that and show them a better future, then you could expect better from them. But if you don't give them that, how do you expect better from them?
Wow, interesting stuff. Good afternoon, caller, you're live. Hi, good afternoon. Hello.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I'm enjoying your program. And I want to say that, you young, talented people, young, bright, lawyers and what have you, that gentleman there, all you young, bright, intelligent people is great. But you have to go back to statistics and like in the 60s, when they was hanging Abdul Malik and all these different people, Trinidad was eerie that morning. It was still. Everybody was quiet. People in the house who in work, the mood of the country was in a dull sort of dull sort of feeling because they was hanging consistently. And then they used to have the cat o' nine tail when you rape and so, and they beat you. If they give you 10 strokes, they give you 3, and the doctor will check you. Because when you get those first 3 strokes and you start to pee and urine and all of that, the doctor check you, he say, yes, you could take more, they give you 3 again. And so on until, if you get 5 and you can't take it, they lay you rest for a week or 2 and then you come back and you get the other 5. But the thing about it, the point is, when those people came back out in society, I was privy to talk to a couple of them who was around the St. James area who do these kind of heinous crimes and get cat o' nine tails that was very aggressive to public society. And if you know how tender, how gentle when they came back out in society, if you know how gentle they was, if you know how soft they spoke, if you know how law-abiding they were, but you see, the criminals, you mustn't hang them. You must not give people cat o' nine tail because that is cruel. And you must not beat children in school. And I want to say that one of my kids years ago was given trouble in school. And when I went to the teacher, I said, my child in third form, she was falling. You know what happened? And
thank you so much for your contribution. Basically, the caller is alluding to...
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, but you see, we look at that and say, oh, we should start back hanging, we should do all these different things. But you know, there are many countries on this planet who don't hang, don't have the kind of crime we have. They don't hang, they don't have cat o' nine tails, they don't have any of those things.
Right.
And they don't have the kind of crime. I've been to countries where when they hear just about the little things that happen, they say, what country are you from again?
Wow.
They don't know about these things, they don't have hanging. I've seen where I've seen a prison. You think it's a mall, it's right next to the mall, and you can't tell the difference between it and the mall. I've been inside of this. No, we keep thinking that let's be violent to people and we make them docile. No, the practice, the statistics really show that if you be violent to people, they become violent. If you bully a person, that person will become a bully. So that to say that you're going to beat some people into submission or kill them into submission, no, because you will, at the end of the day, it's a society that you water is what you will get. If you water a society on violence, expect it to be violent. Don't expect it to be otherwise. So what we need to do is ask ourselves what society we want. We want a violent society, keep on with the violence on both sides. We want a society that respects the human life and respects human beings. We need to show that we have that respect.
Thank you so much for joining us in studio this afternoon, Mr. Mario Merritt. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but our set is always welcome. We always welcome you to our set. Thank you so much to our viewing audience. Thank you so much for being a part of this afternoon's discussion, Anti-Gang Bill. You have been looking at the cold truth. We see you tomorrow.
Belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.